Very good.
Yeah, I'll be getting the recording message.
Yep.
Got it. Got it.
All right. Welcome to the Rotary Club of Motorcycling Rotarians. I don't see any guests, so that's good. I just want to open the meeting and give you guys an update. Glenn was asking me there a few minutes ago. So the total pledges I have right now towards the Polio Plus run, along with the Gates matching dollars, I'm at $18,300, which is just under $700 a mile. So quite motivated. And the race is 11 days from today. So 11 days from today. So it's coming. My only worry right now, I have two worries right now. My worries are what's the weather that day? As long as it doesn't rain, I'm good. And if there's enough bathrooms along the way, and hoping I don't need to use them. But that's, 5.5 hours of running. That's kind of crazy. So
You'll sweat it out, Jerry.
a little over 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I ran. Well, my Garmin said 26.2 miles. That thing's actually a little on the fast side. So I ran about 25.8. So I'm pretty sure I'm going to make it. We'll see. We'll see. So, but I want to thank you, everybody that's pledged. There's a significant amount of you that did. So that's pretty cool. And so all the way around. So when I actually run, after the run's over, I'll send out the email about all the specifics on that stuff. So, anybody else have anything they want to share tonight? You're muted, Tom, if you were trying to say something. You're still muted, Tom.
Oh,
Can you hear me? There you
yeah,
go.
I hear you now, and I'm mulling over Houston.
How many
So-
people are going to Houston that are online here right now?
I'd like to.
Looks like there's about 5 of us or 6 of us online that are going, Tom, if that helps you make your decision.
And
Louis is
Ute
going,
has
7 of us.
that good hill country ride afterwards.
Yeah.
And I gotta take Hava and put her somewhere where she's gonna be unhappy that I'm not there, but that's the way it would be.
Yep, it might be a little warm then, that's all.
Speaking of Hava, you recall the little critter?
Oh, yeah.
I had 110 ink pens made, and on the barrel of the pen it says, Hava, the Havanese, loves snacks and attention. So I'll try to remember to bring a bunch of those when I see everybody next. Crazy.
Yep.
Oh, Jerry, dumb that I didn't think of mentioning this, but Larry and I talked earlier today, and on our homepage, we've got that Southwest Region ride coming up this Saturday. So I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, that looks like a nice ride. I wish I wasn't running. Well, I shouldn't say I wish I wasn't running this race, but it would be kind of nice to ride that race or to ride with you. But right now, I got the handcuffs on.
We did our N polio now.
What's that? Yep.
Last week actually now it would be 2 weeks ago we did our N polio now run, and I believe, and we'd have to get Uda has managed all of it, but I believe we've raised almost $10,000.
Very cool. Is that including the Gates matching, or you got Gates matching? on top
No
of it?
Gates on top of that. But
Fantastic.
with the matching, it's almost 30,000.
Fantastic.
And the now what y'all have to remember is I'm very new to all of this, and one of the suggestions that I made to Chris Schneider is that maybe we should have like a quarterly IFMR get together sort of thing, so that someone like me is more familiar with more of my IFMR riders. So
We do a quarterly IFMR meeting right now. So we should probably publish that more, I guess.
Things that would
There's
be,
nothing
hey, wait a
secret
minute,
about it.
I finally got my patch.
Oh, good. Hey, I
By the
saw
way-
that Chris did some inducting there. Looks like we got about 4 more new members too, huh?
There's some new, there's some new people, and there's a couple that we're actually even trying to bring over to the dark side here. So it was it was was a lot of fun. It was a good
Great.
time. And it was interesting because the distinction I think I finally made was that these are Rotarians who happen to ride motorcycles, whereas I'm a motorcyclist who happens to be a Rotarian. So that's kind of an interesting distinction to finally go, okay, I get it now.
Anybody else have anything you want to share tonight before we get started with Jim? With that, I want to introduce to you to the president-elect of IFMR NA and our club member, Jim Dodney.
Hi, everyone.
Good evening.
How you doing?
Congrats.
I'm going to share my screen. Do you see the slide?
Yep.
I can.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you. Currently, I'm working as a cyber defense forensics analyst and as a cybersecurity auditor to help secure Navy systems. I'm planning to retire this New Year's Eve, and I'm getting ready to seek out some consulting opportunities so I can stay active and try and contribute. If you have any suggestions for improving this brief, I would appreciate any input you have. These are the areas we're going to review. And then we're going to have an interactive workshop. I experimented with this in a meeting a few months ago, and it seems to work pretty well. We're going to review some emails that I've been saving to see if we can figure out if they're legitimate and what we should do with them. Then we're going to take the final exam to see if I've effectively conveyed my lessons. This presentation should not be considered as all-inclusive, since cybersecurity is a rapidly moving target which changes daily, if not hourly. This presentation should only be considered a starting point or a baseline for some of the things that you may want to consider doing, both professionally and personally. Let's talk about personal cyber hygiene. You should review your credit report every year from all 3 credit reporting agencies. These are not only used for credit evaluation, but for your auto insurance and even for my security clearance. As for passwords, you should make sure you use complex passwords with upper and lowercase numbers and special characters. You may also want to consider using a password management application. Never reuse passwords between different sites. If you do, once the bad guys have your password, they will be able to access everything. Patch, patch, patch. Keep all of your systems up to date. 85% of the vulnerabilities that are exploited have already been solved. It's just that the patch has not yet been installed. Never take any significant action based on an email, social media, telephone call, or voicemail. If you get an email from anyone asking for you to take action of any kind, be it sending or transferring money, giving out personal information, or passing a credit card number, always make an independent verification, such as a telephone call, before you grant access to your computer, change your password, or transfer money. A cracker or a malicious actor can subtly change a URL, and it is difficult to catch. If you look at that last bullet, you can see instead of paypal.com, they might call it mypaypal.com. Or instead of USAA.com, they might call it myUSAA.com. Or instead of Amazon.com, it might be Amazon.org. One company tried to sue to stop this practice, but the courts ruled that this practice is legal. The Internet of Things, which is your smart TV, your Ring doorbell, your smart refrigerator, your smart sprinkler system, digital assistant, your smart automobile, and so on, may provide a gateway into your network. A couple of years ago, a casino lost 10 gigabytes of information about their high rollers via a wireless fish tank thermostat installed in the lobby. That's how the hackers got into the network and then downloaded all that information. Most wireless routers have a second guest network that you can put your IoT devices on, which helps to isolate the IoT devices from your computers. Always change default passwords on devices. If you look at the URL in that fourth bullet, you can go there and get the default logins for almost every commercial device. All the bad guys need to do is figure out what make and model devices you have installed, which is pretty trivial, and then they can try to log in with your default accounts. This is Hacker 101, and all you have to do is miss one password. Welcome to my world. Let's talk about email. In general, you should save attachments to your hard drive before opening them. Not all virus scanners will check email attachments without saving them first. Also, before you click on a link, you should evaluate the source, whether it looks right, and if it is worth potentially getting a virus from opening that link. If I get a link from someone I don't recognize or the URL just doesn't look right, I never open it. Looking at a cat or a kitten video just isn't worth getting hacked or getting malware installed. Keep your antivirus software up to date. Although Windows Defender is now considered pretty effective within the industry, and it is automatically updated every 6 hours.
Jim,
Yes.
I just comment that there's an awful lot of times that these scam emails and stuff have a lot of misspellings in them.
Oh,
So
sure. Yeah, we're going to look at
worth
some of
to
that.
Note that.
Yeah. There's a lot of little clues we're going to look at later on. Let me know if you have any questions about this slide. This is how the vast majority of networks get hacked. Is somebody clicks on a link or opens up a file that they're not sure about.
Jim, I accidentally muted you. You want to unmute yourself again? Sorry. That was a mistake on my part trying to unclick mine.
Okay. If you look down at the bottom, you can see the blue underlined URL is what I would call the presentation address. Behind the presentation address, there's a real address that you're going to go to, and they don't always match. So one of the things we're going to do when we look at them is you can hover over that URL and it'll tell you where it's actually going to go. Okay. The address that you can see is not always where you're going to go. If it doesn't look right, don't go there. Make sure that your employees and family members understand the risk of clicking on links. If you have an employee that is working or performing sensitive work, you may want to provide a second workstation for that sensitive work off the network if it is possible. I have a separate computer that I use for all my financial work. That's all it's used for. No email, no browsing, nothing but banking. You can actually get malicious software from a photograph, a video, an audio file, an office document, or just going to the wrong website. On a smartphone, it can be a text with a link. Now they're starting to install malware on smartphones just by clicking a link in a text. If you don't know where that text came from, never click on that link. It could install malware in your phone. And if you use WhatsApp, hackers can now install malicious software on your phone once you have answered a phone call. Personally, I have all but given up on social media. There are too many malicious things going on. The Chinese are watching me, maybe the Russians. 50 very attractive young women want to be my friend on Facebook, and so on. If you are traveling, always wait until you get home to post on Facebook. We went to Budapest, and the day we arrived, someone posted a photo of us and announced that we were going on a first 14-day river cruise. Now the whole world knew that we would be gone and our home would be empty for the next 2 weeks. If you are contacted by anyone on Facebook or anywhere else on the internet asking for money, make sure you verify it separately. There's an interesting story about a fellow that changed girlfriends, and when he shared his Netflix account, his new girlfriend could see all the movies he had watched with his ex. This resulted in some friction, so you may want to consider the ramifications of sharing account logins. Also, if you must use social media, make sure you restrict your privacy settings so only your friends can see your posts. Then there was a story about this fella that gave his old iPad to his child. What he forgot to do was to change the password on his cloud storage account. The child asked the mother who that lady was with daddy in all those pictures. Or there was a fellow that let his new girlfriend have access to his cloud storage account, and she got to see all the intimate pictures of him and his ex in various parts of the house that they now share. I don't know what happened in the first story, but in the second story, he ended up buying a new house. As I have mentioned before, when you respond to unknown texts or emails or even voicemails, make sure you know who you were talking to. Apple is pretty good about checking apps for security, but if you are on an Android, it's not so closely monitored. There was just a hack a few days ago where they put some kind of advertising app on, say, a couple of million Android phones without people installing it. Push notifications on a text is what allows you to see text without needing to log into your phone. Since this is now being used for enhanced security by financial institutions, you may want to disable that feature because people no longer need to have your login. All they have to do is have access to your phone, and they can take action on your accounts with the extra security. Make sure that your children understand that stranger danger also applies on the internet. There are bad people there as well. Human trafficking is rampant, and the majority of weekly cybersecurity updates I get from DHS are people getting sentenced for child pornography. In fact, the law enforcement agent where I work left because he had a small child and could not stand to see any more child pornography. It is much more prolific than you realize. Another piece of trivia is that Google has a historic record of every search you have ever performed, all the way back to BG, beginning of Google. At work, you may want to institute a cybersecurity training program. Ensure that your employees know to verify who they are communicating with. There was a small local company with a new employee running payroll. In response to what she thought was a request from the company president, she had sent him all the company W-2s. She later saw him in the hallway and asked him if he had received all those W-2s. He didn't know what she was talking about and told her he had never asked for them. Unfortunately, it was her second week on the job, and she was now beginning a new job search because she had just cost the company $130,000. It never hurts to pick up the phone and verify that they actually sent you that email or text before you take action on it, especially when dealing with sensitive information. Oh, and ensure that you make the call. There have been significant strides in creating voice files that sound exactly like a given individual. There was another case where an employee acted on a voicemail from the CEO, he thought, and he transferred $150,000 to an outside account. I'm not sure if he still has his job. Many of the new devices, such as smartphones, can be listening devices and can be controlled. In fact, that can occur without even having any physical access to the device. For less than $100, that was in 2010 dollars, your device can be modified so that someone can have full access to your device from anywhere on the planet without you knowing. Do not conduct sensitive conversations with any electronic devices in the room. If you're familiar with one of the recent vulnerabilities, Print Nightmare was a Windows print spooler vulnerability that allowed easy escalation of print privileges to administrator on any Windows machine that had printing enabled. The post-secure VPN vulnerability allowed foreign actors to intrude on secure communication sessions, which the Russians had great luck with during the Cold War. Always keep your system up to date. These are the areas of interest you need to understand in order to effectively manage your IT systems both at home and at work. These are basic high-level topics that you need to understand. We have about 600 of these controls with subtests that we have to look at depending on the sensitivity of the system. I don't know if you've heard of Sidewalk or not. This is a feature that Amazon just decided that they would implement, and they would start sharing your wireless network via your smart assistant. You didn't have to opt in. They opted everybody in, but if you had an extra hour or so to waste, you can opt out. Also, as I mentioned before, Alexa and other personal digital assistants are always monitoring your conversations in order to ensure that they do not miss your requests. Most digital assistants are always listening or randomly listening. This will ensure that when you are talking about a new sweater or jacket, they can automatically add it to your shopping list without you having to ask. Whenever you are conducting a sensitive conversation or meeting, you may want to mute or unplug that device. You are never going to commit the perfect crime if Alexa is listening. Trust me, law enforcement is all over it. Also, you should consider your smartphone as another monitoring device. Never have a sensitive conversation with your phone in the same room. Turning it off is not good enough. Speaking of listening devices, any computer or television with a camera can also be a listening device, and in fact can record everything within reach of the camera and microphone. You may want to unplug the computer or television or move your sensitive conversation to another room, and don't forget to leave the smartphones outside. In addition, covering a camera is a good way to preserve your privacy. You can get camera covers for a very inexpensive price, and they can be installed in seconds. You can look up in the corner. I have one on my computer. Just slide it over and it cuts the picture off. Slide it back and it opens up. I think it was $7 for 3 of them. Here are some tips on the ubiquitous ransomware threat. It's easy to get and plant ransomware with a potentially very high payoff for the perpetrators. Most ransomware is initially planted by someone clicking a link in an email. Train your staff to be wary of clicking links and opening files of any kind from an unknown source. Also, make sure that you have an effective and regularly tested system backup. This is the easiest way to make sure that you can recover from a ransomware attack. Also, make sure that your backup is not accessible via the network. Most recent ransomware attacks start by encrypting network files first in order to ensure that your online backups are not available for recovery. You look on the slide, that top link is a site that totals all the ransomware payments since they started. When I checked it in September, it was $98 billion. These are some of the updated scams. A lot of them we're pretty familiar with. Debt collection is generally going to be a harassing phone call from someone posing as a collection agent seeking a credit card or a debit card to pay this overdue debt along with fees. Or it could be someone posing as a government official seeking payment of a fee or a fine via wire transfer. Never give any personal information to these scammers. And in fact, one of the latest scams is to get you to say yes, so they can record it, you saying yes, and they can use it to change your credit card information. Some of the companies are now using your voice to authorize a change to your credit card. If you're like me, your information has been stolen many, many times. The good news is that most credit companies now notify you if there is an account requested in your name or if there's a credit record check. Once again, the phone call could be from the local sheriff wanting your credit card number since you just missed jury duty, pay up or go to jail. Or it could be the Microsoft help desk wanting money to renew your license. Just ask them to send you a letter and hang up. If you're really nervous about it, call the local sheriff about either of them. One of the articles I sent is Who is Calling Me, which is about people in prison scamming people out of millions of dollars from their cells using smuggled cell phones. It's a pretty interesting article. It's my favorite. Have you noticed that all these scams are unsolicited phone calls? It could be a loan, or it could be that you won a prize. All you have to do is give me a credit card number to win that $23 million prize. Save yourself some trouble and just hang up. If you really won the money, somebody would be at your front door wanting to be your friend. I will occasionally purchase something outside of Amazon, but my bank is very aggressive when I challenge a charge on my card. I haven't lost yet. If you do purchase from a company that you are not familiar with, you might want to try a one-time use virtual credit card or a gift card that has limits. I do not have any experience with automobile-related complaints, but if you are using a repair company that you have no experience with, that could be a problem. They could be actually taking parts of your car and using them to fix somebody else's car. Again, these are phone calls. You're overdoing a bill, you owe back taxes and fees. All you have to do is give them your credit card number to make it go away. As for phishing emails, I get requests to change my passwords many times a day. Funny, the emails don't even come from the people that have my accounts. No easier way to get my password than to ask me to update it, or it will expire. For about $200, you can emulate a website, send out emails, trick people to go to your website, which is going to look just like the real website. And they get you to change your password. Now they have your login information. Here's the U.S. Computer Emergency Response Team on scams. You can go to those URLs and they'll talk to you about scams. If you're at the airport, you could connect to the wrong network and they'll be able to see what everything you do. Even if you connect to the correct network, someone can be collecting your information. You should consider getting a virtual private network connection. I use ExpressVPN and we have a Navy VPN. It encrypts all your information and it gives you some peace of mind when you're on a public or a hotel network. As I mentioned earlier, some companies are just using the spoken word yes to authorize account changes. So if they have that, if the bad guys have that word in your voice, the perpetrator may be able to make changes to your account. There's a URL for an article discussing that. And when I go to other Rotary clubs, I go through the different rides that we're doing for IFMR. Some people are interested, some aren't, but I do like to wave the flag a little bit. Okay, now we're going to take a look at a few emails, and we're going to discuss whether or not what we should do with it. So Jerry, you still there? Can you unmute everybody so they can talk?
Everybody has to unmute themselves.
Please unmute yourself so you can participate.
You got it.
I'm ready.
Okay, here's an email I got from DHL. Says that it couldn't deliver my package. Funny thing, didn't come from DHL. Looks like someplace in China, maybe. You think I should click on the link here? Should I verify it?
I think I would delete it.
Okay, that's a good call. Here's a Best Buy opinion request. Wow, I'm going to get $1,000.
Yeah, that don't happen.
That's great. So all I have to do is click here and go to this bogus website. I can get some malware and $1,000.
It's nowhere, yeah.
Okay. Okay, I use a company called 1-in-1 for my hosting, which was bought out by a company called Ionis. Okay, and they're sending me an email from myself telling me that there are emails being held. What do you think?
Not from yourself.
There you go. If it doesn't look right, just don't click on any links because you don't know where you're going. Now, this is typically, it looks like a URL shortener to me. The problem with URL shorteners are you can't really tell where you're going to go. Okay. That's one of the clues on this thing. I don't know anybody named Smith Murp. And I don't know what IDSCO. Now I could go to idsco.com and see what kind of company it was, but I certainly wouldn't click on this link without doing some background checking, right? Here's another one from myself to me. Now, I guess Norton is using Gmail, and they want me to pay $330, which I find a little odd because I don't use Norton. So what do you think?
Delete it.
Ignore that one.
Yeah.
I just got one from Norton. Actually, it said, thank you for your payment. I ignored it.
Yeah, that's right. They do that too. They just want you to say, wait a minute, I didn't pay for anything. Now here's another one. We got a waybill here in an HTML file. But this is going from imsbiz.com. If it was actually from DHL, if you see here, it says it's from DHL.com, but that's not really where it came from, is it? Okay. But it looks pretty authentic. They got the right pictures. They got the right logos. Now this Jay Hubblebank is a guy in the local motorcycle club here that used to send out clever jokes. He hasn't been sending them out for a couple of years, and out of the blue, I get this email from him. And he wants me to go look at this picture.
Yeah, no,
No, you sure? Could be
I
a
would
good
not.
picture. Yeah. So if you're not sure, don't go there. Now, SANS is a legitimate company. I have a certification from SANS. So this one looks legitimate to me, right? It actually came from SANS.org. It talks about a webcast talking about a vulnerability that was discovered. So I might just go to the website instead of clicking a link. I'm kind of nervous about clicking links unless it looks really legitimate. Oh, I want some more money. So I can go, instead of going to Sam's, I'm going to the globallearning.com, right? And it came from the globallearning.com.
And you're gonna get some global learning if you do it.
That's right. That's right. I'm going to get some,
What's hilarious is I know
software.
where that is.
well, it's somebody probably using their server to send those messages out,
Yep.
right?
No.
Yeah, here's another one from my hoster, my hosting facility, coming from johnrowley.net. And it's going, that link is taking me to hospital.bahia.com for PKI validation and login and software installation, probably. So you get the point, right? You know what you should be looking at. You know that you should be suspicious of everything. If you get a Facebook message from your nephew in London that needs bail money, call his parents, call somebody to independently validate it. That's happened a few times. In this area here, there was a fella that somebody convinced him that he owed them money and they were going to take his house. And then they had his car towed. Then they changed the locks on his house and said, you need to send us $70,000 cash or we're going to take your house away. And the sheriff caught him at the FedEx office getting ready to FedEx $70,000 to these people. So there's a lot of smooth actors out there that want your money. Here's eHarmony. Comes from tedbvi.com. And as Jerry said before, a lot of these will have a misspelling. They'll have, it'll be poor grammar. It'll be something, maybe a company you don't do business with. You just have to be suspicious. These are the people that actually do my insurance. And I know some of these guys that do the service. So I think that's legitimate. And I'm a regular Amazon user, but I don't think this is from Amazon. Okay, so does anybody have any questions about some of the things you should be looking at?
Nice grammar on that too.
On this Amazon one?
Oh yeah, we lock your account.
Yeah. Well, it's probably English as a second language, you know. All right, so now I would say it's time for your final exam.
Verify everything.
Be suspicious.
Okay.
Be overly cautious. Yep.
Before Google.
Go back to the telephone.
Yeah.
So you always want to independently verify any transaction before you act on it. Those people that are calling you, you didn't ask them to call you, right?
Yep.
Those emails, you didn't ask them to send you an email and ask for money or install software. So I would just delete it, hang up on them, whatever. I know you don't want to be rude or anything, but read that email about who is calling me. And that'll give you a different perspective about really who's calling you. The other thing is, don't click on a link unless you're absolutely sure about it.
That's good information.
Okay. This concludes my presentation.
Jim, are you going to make this available to us, the presentation?
I can, yeah. Yeah.
That would be great.
Yes,
Makes
sir.
you think you should live in a cardboard box with no electricity.
Well, you just have to be careful. Just be careful about clicking links and giving out your credit card.
You gave us some good sites to go to, so that's why I was hoping you could make this available.
Sure, yeah. I'll get Linda to send it out to everybody.
Thank you.
So did you think that looking at the emails was worth doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
And you taught me something tonight by clicking or hovering over the address. It will give you more than just Amazon.com. It'll give you who it actually came from.
Well, or where it's going to go to, or where it's going to take you.
Go to, right.
Yeah. And if it doesn't look right, just don't go there. It's not worth it. You know, your life could be miserable for a couple of months if your computer crashes and all that stuff. So.
It'll do that enough on its own.
Yeah. So are there any more questions?
Great presentation.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, thanks. All right, well, I'm gonna sign off now. I have to go pick up my wife.
Sounds like you can add one more caveat. You can't be too careful.
Well, you got to be careful. You got to be suspicious and take it with a grain of salt when somebody calls you. So.
No, I've never seen so many spam and scam emails and phone calls that I never asked for. It's gotten to be so voluminous. I
Well,
almost pitch my phone and use it as a skipping stone.
the only reason they're doing that is people are buying it. Somebody's giving them a credit card or sending them money, and that's why they're doing it. Just like a ransomware is $98 billion so far. They're not attacking individuals as much anymore. They're attacking cities because they have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of money for security, but they have a lot of money to pay up when they lose their data. So y'all have a nice night, and we'll see you next week.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Great presentation.
We got a few more minutes. Anybody else got anything you want to share or?
It reminds me what he just said about the ransomware people are going after the cities because they have the money. What crook was it that was asked, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is. Remember that quote? I don't know who it was.
That's surprising.
Here in Texas, I'm seeing a rise in counties looking for new IT companies to come in. And that's some of the reason behind it is they're finding out how unsecure their systems really are. And a lot of them, you know, they're terribly underfunded and everything else. And so, you know, people get cheap in the wrong places, and it has definitely cost some of them a lot of money.
I don't know how effective it is, but I usually take about once a week back up my systems on a hard drive, but I disconnect from the internet when I do it.
Makes sense.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
never thought of that, disconnecting the internet when you do that.
$60 for external hard drive, back it up once a week, and I've got one for each of the computers. I just disconnect from the internet, back everything up, and then do it again. I know there's a cloud out there, but I don't really trust the cloud either.
Thank you. I never have.
I never have.
I always figured if somebody created it, somebody created a back door to it.
Yep.
Well, and you now got so many clouds out there, you don't know which one has what.
I primarily use an American Express credit card for everything I use. And I just had such great luck with them. If anything shows up suspicious or I get worried about something, they step right in. And I about once every 2 years, I get a phone call from somebody there and an email, and it says, "Hey, we saw something we didn't like. You got a new credit card, FedEx coming tomorrow morning." And they've been great. I had an issue down in Guatemala where something didn't happen, and I tell you what, they have never ever let me down in terms of recovering money and stopping payments and things like that. So
What
if I get a
really
choice,
like-
I use that card before anything else.
What I really enjoy are those random security checks where if you're traveling and it's 2 a.m. in the morning, you're at a filling station off of, Highway Wazoo, whatever, and they decline your credit card because of a random security check. And you call your MasterCard or whomever, and they say, yeah, we can't figure out why you're in, Wazoo trying to buy something.
When I go out of the country, I call my bank and stuff and make sure they know where I'm at.
I try to do that, but that doesn't stop them from random security checks.
Never had that issue.
We had a terrible time on the end polio now ride because we were in a when I tell you this is a small town, it is a small town. It's like a blip on the map. They have 2 gas stations. One gas station, for whatever reason, their pumps were down completely. So now we all go trooping over to the second gas station. There are 15, 16 bikes. And it was a situation where none of the card readers were working. So you had to physically go in. Oh my God. After a while, it was like, okay, I think I got my gas. I'm like ready to go. Come on. But on the same token, I can't complain because if they're fielding any sort of suspicious activity, once again, very, very small town in the middle of nowhere, Texas. I mean, the good thing is I went in, hey, I need $10 and was on my merry little way.
I think this is the very first time I've heard a Texan say something was small in Texas.
Oh, there's no. I can take you on a tour of small towns in Texas, let me tell you. And it's pretty crazy. Well, when you enter Texas, I just saw that thing about the Iron Butt ride. I'm like, you go right across Texas once, that's 870 some odd miles by itself. Go a little further, just go to what is the name of that place in New Mexico? But yeah, it's there are lots and lots of little towns, and actually Highway 59 is a pretty major thoroughfare in the Houston area. But as we head north, so like Jerry, if I'm coming to see you, I'm going to take 59 north. There are parts of 59 where it becomes you get stoplights. You're going through these little towns and they love to get you. They love to get you when you're speeding. So I highly recommend if you come to Houston, don't keep an eye on that speedometer, especially in those small towns. But it is some pretty interesting little places. Actually, I didn't talk about this earlier, but I did a stage of the motorcycle cannonball, which was very, very cool. Oh my God, it was cool. These are people riding pre-World War II motorcycles. They started in Sault Ste. Marie, ran all the way to Myrtle Beach, and then all the way down to South Padre, and met some very, very interesting people. That is for sure. but these guys are riding these bikes that, actually at one point they were told there was a road that they were going to be on where the speed limit was 70, and they're all like, you think we're going to go 70 on these things? I saw parts fly off. I mean, I saw all we were in a town square in Nacogdoches, and we're standing there, and these guys come flying in. Hey, guess what? A lot of these bikes don't have brakes. There is a little safety tip for you. And I mean, they're smoking, they're burning oil, the smell of gasoline, overheating bikes. I mean, if you are into that stuff, definitely watch for it to come anywhere near you. We rode about, I'm trying to think, it was like a 300-mile round trip ride up just to go check it out. It was pretty cool. I highly recommend it.
We'll
Just
have to have
saw
a
their
meeting
website. That's
sometime.
pretty impressive.
It is, and they came out of Sault Ste. Marie. I mean, and it's all back roads. Oh my God. It turns out a friend of mine was actually on the tour as one of their medical people. And so we hooked up with her. So she introduced us to everybody, the guy who ended up winning. And these guys were great. And they were like, it was amazing because they had ridden from Arkadelphia, Arkansas to Nacogdoches, Texas that day. So it was like 250, 300 miles. You would think they'd get off these bikes and they'd be like, don't even, I've had enough. Oh no, they're talking about their bikes. They literally had set up a shop in the middle of the square. A lot of these guys were doing oil changes. I mean, like right there. And you got to see some really interesting bikes and actually some really interesting high value bikes. So I took loads of pictures and we had a great time out there. But the funniest point was I got introduced to a group of guys who all are doctors. They're all neurosurgeons and emergency room doctors. And I'm like, well, I guess if you're going to get hurt on this tour, these are the guys to go out with.
That looks like John Cram, doesn't it, guys?
Yeah, it sure does.
It's the wrong color.
There were some beautiful Indians.
There wasn't enough fringe on there for John.
Well, that was a real Indian, not that Polaris that he rides.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. Wow.
Sometime we'll have to have a meeting where we talk about odd signs we've seen on the highways.
I think we ought to have a presentation by the antique cannonball run people.
Actually, I'm working on it. I'm already
That'd be
working on it.
great. Thank
Great.
you.
I would love to see that.
Yeah, they've got an excellent video out. I watched it on the internet one time. That was great.
Oh yeah, and if we can get a good speaker, they love to talk. They
Yep.
love to talk about the bikes. They love to talk about the experience of it. So yeah, I'm working on that already.
Super.
We actually have some
Well-
really cool speakers coming up. So stay
Very
tuned.
cool. That's great. I'm going to actually end this right on time because I have to head into another meeting right away after this. So, who's here? Chris, you want to lead us in the 4-way test?
Sure. The things we think, say, and do. First, is it the truth?
The truth.
Second, is it fair to all concerned? Third, will it build
Will build
goodwill,
goodwill and
better friendships? And fourth, will it be beneficial
Beneficial
to concern? And number 5,
Will
Is
it
it
be
fun?
fun?
Well, good night, everybody. Appreciate seeing everybody.
Thanks a lot,
Good
everybody.
night, all.
Great.
Have
See you
a good
next
night.
week.
Nine all.